Watching a high-stakes championship game in real time is a physical ordeal. Your heart races, your muscles tense, and every play feels like a threat because the outcome is still a total mystery. But the experience shifts entirely when you watch a recording, like a VHS tape of the 2002 Western Kentucky University Championship. On tape, the fumbles and interceptions still happen, but the paralyzing anxiety is gone. You're watching a done deal. You already know the Hilltoppers win. Resting in a guaranteed outcome provides a level of stillness that micromanaging the present could never achieve. This sense of certainty is exactly what a group of ancient Israelites lost sight of while standing on the edge of their promised land, trading their peace for a logic-driven panic. 11 days after leaving Egypt, the Israelites arrived at the edge of Canaan. The command from God was simple: go and take possession. This wasn't a blind leap. According to the prophet Ezekiel, God had already scouted the land and sworn an oath to bring them into it. For Israel, the victory was meant to be a recorded game. Yet the people hesitated. They proposed sending 12 men ahead to scout the cities and the terrain, framing the mission as a practical precaution. This proposal tilted the scale away from God's word and toward self-reliance. By demanding to see the obstacles, they prioritized logic over a divine guarantee. God allowed the mission, not to gather intelligence on Canaan, but to reveal the contents of the Israelites' hearts. When we insist on surveying the variables before we trust, we set the stage for the very panic we're trying to avoid. The spies returned confirming the land's abundance, even carrying a cluster of grapes so large it required 2 men to lift it. But their report carried a fatal qualification. However, 10 spies fixated on the giants and the fortified walls. Their focus on the circumstances produced a paralyzing sense of inadequacy. This visualization shows how quickly that perspective spread. The fear of 10 men infected the entire camp, leading thousands to weep and beg for a return to slavery in Egypt. Their panic grew so irrational that they accused God of abandoning them, forgetting the miraculous rescue from Egypt they had just witnessed. Because they allowed their sight to dictate their beliefs, that generation spent the next 40 years wandering, dying in the wilderness they feared. Fixating on the giants in our path turns fear into a self-fulfilling prophecy, trapping us in a wilderness of our own making. The giants we face today, illness, loss, or financial instability, trigger the same survival instincts. When we feel threatened, our thoughts often follow the same irrational path as the Israelites. This breakdown in logic is why a plan must be in place before the crisis hits. When we are under pressure, we rarely think clearly enough to invent a new way of seeing. Changing our optics is the first requirement. When Peter walked on water, he remained steady as long as he looked at Jesus. He only began to sink the moment he shifted his crashing gaze to the wind and the waves. Romans 12 describes a renewal of the mind, where we consciously choose to dwell on what is true rather than the chaos surrounding us. This shift allows us to see trials as the manure God uses to grow our maturity. These obstacles provide the necessary environment for our faith to reach completion. By redefining the purpose of our struggles, we strip them of their power to dictate our internal peace. Guarding the heart is the final piece of the protocol. Because our behavior flows from our innermost thoughts, we must store God's promises there before the storm arrives. These promises are anchored in the person of Jesus, the Prince of Peace, who assured his followers that while they would face tribulation, he had already overcome the world. Trusting his word is the spiritual equivalent of watching that 2002 championship tape. While the static of current anxiety may swirl, the outcome is already a matter of record. Your circumstances may not change instantly, but your perspective can.